These are the current neuromodulating techniques we currently have for epilepsy. Neuromodulating techniques are techniques where you can modulate the electricity of the brain to try to prevent seizures from happening. Usually, these are good for patients who are still having seizures despite medication trials, who are continuing to have seizures despite maybe even resection, where we've gone in and taken a part of the brain out, or they're not candidates for that. So we have the VNS, the RNS, and the DBS. The VNS is the oldest. It's been out for the longest amount of time. Initially for focal epilepsies, now it's used in generalized epilepsies. I find it to be most helpful for atonic and drop seizures, but it can be used for focal epilepsies as well. It's also used in depression for a lot of folks. So if it doesn't help your epilepsy, sometimes it can help with your mood, which is always nice. The interrogator sits in your chest. The device itself, electrode, sits in your vagus nerve in your neck and modulates that way. Now, the RNS is a little different. It's for multifocal epilepsy or focal epilepsy. If your seizure is coming from an area that we can't go in and take out, we can recommend an RNS. It's kind of like a pacemaker for the brain. The actual interrogator sits underneath the skull. The electrodes sit in the portion of the brain that are creating the seizures, and it'll gently modify it over time to create that electricity from making seizures. Now, the DBS is the newest that we have for epilepsy care. DBS in and of itself is not new. We've been using it in depression and Parkinson's disease for a period of time, but recently has been something that is proven successful for seizure therapy as well. In this case, the interrogator again sits in your chest. The actual device sits in your thalamic nuclei, which are your deep brain nuclei. And the thought is, while it's sitting there, it will also send out little electrical activity that will modulate your seizure network and keep you from having frequent seizures. This is used in focal epilepsies, multifocal epilepsies, I think in generalized epilepsies as well, but I do have to double check that. Now, the VNS is something that you can put in children. It's used for pediatric care. The RNS and the DBS you have to be over 18 for, although I'm pretty sure they'll start studying that in pediatric populations as well. You can absolutely have all these devices at once. I've seen folks with that. It is rare. But if that is something that you're considering, or if you're considering any of these, definitely do um, get under the care of a tertiary care epilepsy medical center who does do a lot of epilepsy surgeries. You will want an epileptologist to follow along with, and an experienced neurosurgeon who is very used to doing these procedures.